Okay. Good to go. We're right on. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. I will call order to the meeting at 9:30. And I would ask, or I'd say we have the attendance. Yeah. Councillor Bermansky and Councillor Hughes are joining us via Zoom this morning, with the remaining councillors as well as myself, present in person. So I'd ask Councillor to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented this morning. Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay.
That the December 16th, 2025 agenda be adopted as presented.
I don't believe we're going to have any questions. We can move it to a vote. Wonderful. That motion passed unanimously. So with that, we do have a number of speakers or presentations this morning. Just a friendly reminder, we due to the volume, there is a 5-minute time limit that is strictly enforced. So not to cut you off at rudely at 5 minutes, but you will get a bell rung at 30 seconds. So if it does, try not to let that throw you off. And then at 5 minutes, you'll conclude, which will then give us an opportunity for council to ask any questions that come out of the presentation. So I'd invite Michaela to speak this morning on behalf of Melcor. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I don't want to. Well, you can reset your 5 minutes. We just need to turn the microphone on. This is nothing, not your fault. Sorry about that.
I won't talk for very long. I don't need 5 minutes. Good morning, Mayor Olivieri and St. Albert City Council. Thank you very much for having us today. This is 3 times in a week. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at SCOW last week and for allowing us to listen in on the conversation surrounding levies and the Northeast Infrastructure Project at the Fire Hall yesterday. Obviously, we feel this is a very important issue, not only for Jensen Lakes, but also for the city of St. Albert in achieving its growth and affordability targets, and for ensuring sustainable growth and a diversity of housing options for current and future residents. We want to take the opportunity to again highlight the importance of the Northeast Infrastructure Project, as well as the need to take the necessary steps towards advancing its funding. We had planned to speak today following yesterday's info session with a presentation that addressed some anticipated misrepresentations or differences of opinion. But after watching the session, we now feel that there is a general alignment of the challenges and the benefits of this project. We appreciated listening to the conversation surrounding levies, and we agree with this information that was presented by admin. And we felt that the presentation was very informative and well prepared. Thank you for that. We are pleased with this refreshed dynamic, and we thank council for asking great questions and admin for answering them objectively. Given the format of yesterday's conversation, we were not able to address council, but some relevant issues to us that we heard included funding sources for this project, timing of the project in relation to our Jensen Lake staging goals and our lift station development, levy and front-ending policies and from other comparable municipalities. It was also mentioned that pursuing this project may trigger MDP amendments as well as future infrastructure requirements. Although there might be some overall shifts as it pertains to vision and direction, it is our opinion that there are no existing policies within any approved stat plan that would prevent the advancement of Northeast servicing. As we could not participate in the conversation yesterday, we want to give council the opportunity, if they should so please, to ask us any questions while it is still top of mind. We are happy to take questions now, or feel free to contact us in any format at your convenience. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the attendance over the last week at the meetings. We certainly appreciate it. I'll open it up to council if there's any questions or comments. Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for attending yesterday. I didn't have anything prepared because I didn't know what your presentation was going to be. So what I'll probably do is take you up on your offer and reach out if I have anything I mean, I could put you on the spot and say when, but I won't do that.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cortash.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. If you but I guess maybe I'll the same as Councillor Mackay will follow up by email, but also perhaps you could comment on the timelines. We were discussing some of the timelines yesterday with interim solutions versus the ultimate solution, that type of thing. So how does that affect what timelines are you looking at, and how does that relate to the interim solution and the ultimate solution that were discussed yesterday?
Yeah, I wish that there was a really clear answer with that. Our objectives this year would be to build at least one stage. We are working very closely with admin on that. So I think that it depends on the next few months as we sort out funding or as we pursue this the bi-party agreement for some interim solutions. So I think depending on the outcomes of those conversations, we'd have a better idea. Given some of the comments made by admin yesterday, there may be some sort of transition periods depending on commitments to build either the interim or the ultimate. But our goal would definitely be to build at least one stage this year. So however we get there, that would be it. I don't know, Sue, did you have? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't believe there's any other questions. Obviously, you've been able to hear the position from admin as well as from council. I think there is hopefully more alignment after this week for sure. So it's refreshing, or it's reassuring to hear that. I, like Ken, will probably reach out through the other means once we can kind of formulate some more detailed questions on your plans going forward. So thank you very much.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I hope this order is is correct. We're going to move it to the presentation regarding the disposition of the 13 Mission Avenue site. And I invite Phyllis Kelly to step forward to speak now. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Olivieri and Council. I'm Phyllis Kelly, elected representative and councillor for the Otipemisiwak Métis Government, St. Albert District Council. I'm here before you today to speak about the motion to pause the sale of 13 Mission Avenue, site of the former NABI building. The reason why I appear today, and our friends did previously, is to discuss why the Métis community of St. Albert is seeking that you vote in favor of pausing the sale. Please note, I am not requesting a stop to the sale, just the opportunity to engage in conversation and consultation with Indigenous partners who hold such places as 13 Mission Avenue as significant to our heritage and to our culture. We wish for more meaningful consultation than what may occur with the public engagement for redistricting from commercial to residential. Under previous council decisions, engagement is not conducted at the time of change of parcel ownership. Although our Otipemisiwak Métis Government St. Albert District is currently involved in creating a new Indigenous framework that will include engagement and consultation with Indigenous partners, we may need to revisit what has happened in the past with typical ways of consultation. For Métis people, consultation isn't about a report or hard data collected. It's about our relationship to the land, to each other, to hearing stories, and to listening to why this area is of cultural and historical significance to us. Consultation is about finding a middle ground between preserving our past and moving forward in a way that benefits us all. We are not looking to halt economic development for St. Albert. We know that what benefits our community benefits us all. We support downtown development, but we wish that development to include the importance of Uville Hill and the Métis lands. We are not seeking a stop to this sale, just some time to pause, to gather and share and connect. We understand that a delay may impact the economic reputation of St. Albert. We hope you will consider the reputation of St. Albert as it engages with Indigenous people in our city as equally important. Focusing on just the financial needs of the city is narrow and avoids looking at the rich cultural history of past and current Métis citizens. So I urge you to consider pausing the sale to allow for meaningful and transparent consultation. There may be some here that are concerned that we're looking for something more, but we just wish to have respectful consultation denied us under the current framework so that we can move forward in a way that allows our community to thrive, but also remember. We are asking council today to pause in this sale of this historic and significant site to allow time for us to work collaboratively, share knowledge, and support efforts to honor and protect these lands. Thank you for your consideration of this important motion before you today.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So don't run off yet. I know we have a bunch of questions. We'll start with Councillor Cortash.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kelly. Thanks very much for that this morning. You had mentioned a new framework for consultation, but I sort of missed the context of what that was in regards to. What's in development?
So we've had one meeting already with the city of St. Albert, the Indigenous liaison team and an outside consulting team that is working to develop a new Indigenous framework. So how we would be engaging with the city.
Okay, broadly on a number of different issues, not just with respect to land sales, just a indigenous. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. You actually said a lot of things that I am very similar to what I'm going to be saying in a little bit here. So thank you for that. I did have one question, and I am asking this question with the utmost respect. So I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but I would just want to know, because I and everyone here knows that I do agree that we need to have meaningful engagement, but I do want to know, is there, and I know this is a difficult question, so I'm feeling hesitant to ask it, but is there a way to know or even predict how long would engagement take? Like I know that's a difficult question, but do we have an idea of like, is this going to take, could it take weeks? Could we get started engagement right away? Would it take months? Like is that a question you could maybe answer?
I know that in Indigenous cultures, winter is the time for stories. So it's a good time to kind of pause and share those stories. How long that would take is difficult to predict, but I'm not thinking that we're talking years. I think we're more talking weeks. Just the opportunity to be able to gather those stories, share the significance, but also hear the different perspectives of what might be others' vision for that land. I was looking at Councillor Coratash's post last night, and there are some wonderful and meaningful ideas to use this land that maybe don't go in a typical fashion. So we're not really, other than when it comes to the redistricting, there's really no opportunity for that public engagement. And I realized through some people's posts that this land is significant to so many people who live in St. Albert, not just Métis community. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That was all I had.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate the thoughtful feedback provided today. And I know we're going to have some more speakers addressing this issue. My one question to you, you made reference to something that benefits us all. And not just putting the city's priorities ahead of the Indigenous and the Métis group that is looking to pause for meaningful engagement. My question is, do you have a definition of, or can you explain what would benefit us all? Like, I'm confused in that sense of how we would measure that, because if it's going to take weeks, potentially weeks, which be honest is quicker than I would have anticipated, but can you define that? Like how we can say, okay, we've reached a point or somewhere along the path that would be of benefit to both groups?
I live in St. Albert. My colleagues live in St. Albert. The Métis families and citizens that we serve live in St. Albert in the area. And for us, we understand that economically, the sale of this land ultimately benefits the city. But the economic end can't, in our opinion, in my opinion, can't be the only outcome that comes from a decision like this. That we're not talking about a parcel of land in Jensen Lakes, for example. We're talking about a parcel of land that is historically of huge significance. It's some of the original river lots. It's connected to the Uville School that was at the top of the hill. So in particular, this parcel of land is of huge significance. But we understand that economic development is a part of our city and outcomes currently. It's not a this end or this end. There's the ability to find that middle ground, that in sharing our stories and sharing our voices and sharing our concerns, we have the opportunity to talk about that. Really, for me, the motion is pausing the sale to have that consultation, to have that time to share those stories, to have those conversations, to hear your side of things as well, to hear what is important to the city.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any other question. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today. I'm just wondering a couple of things as relates to the wording of the motion. So how would you define meaningful and transparent?
So if I were to send an email to, say, yourself or the rest of council members, that's not really transparent to the public. That is now a private communication between myself and council. So it's not really transparent. Transparent would be me being able to gather input from my citizens to share with you and council and members of city staff that would be involved with this. It's the ability to talk about those issues publicly, whether it's on social media or through our website or through our own Métis connections, to have those kinds of conversations where I can say, what do you think about this? What is important to you? Meaningful is, again, that opportunity to just have our voices heard. I have gone to public engagement consultation sessions put on prior by developers. And I've walked and I've looked at the placards and information that they've provided, and my voice is not really received. I introduce myself, I state where I'm from, I look for some kind of consultation and encouragement, and usually I get no feedback. So to minimize the consultation to just that kind of public engagement is not really meaningful. Like I said, in our community, relationships is everything. Our relationship with the land, our relationship with each other. If we don't have the opportunity to have conversations, it's hard to build that relationship.
So, and thank you for this, I appreciate that. So, let's say the motion passes, and so there's dialogue, there's a ability for the stories to be shared, council, administration all meet. It'll probably be later in the new year. Well, it would be later in the new year because we're shutting down for a few weeks. But then the sale continues anyway. Would it still be considered meaningful to you?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question. Would the sale be considered meaningful or the
No,
conversation
it-
that we had?
yeah. So we have the conversation and then ultimately council says, we're going to continue with the sale as is, and follow our regular procedures. Would it then be considered meaningful?
I hope that through the conversations that council, if they choose to continue with the sale, choose to continue it in a way that honors and respects the significance of not just the land, but also the history of the Métis people that live upon that land.
So are we looking to have like a caveat put on then onto the sale?
At this time, I can't say definitively that's what we would be looking for. That might be an option to explore in conversation.
Okay, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any more questions, so thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Ms. Joanne Ladouceur up to speak next. Thank you very much.
Good morning. So I've met you a couple of weeks back. So I'm a Métis resident over 200 years on the land here. I'm also the community engagement and project lead for the Wechitewin Uville Residential School Truthing Initiative. I drive by Mission Hill frequently. It's a popular place at this time of year. Children, young, old, adults, grandparents all enjoy the hill. It's a beautiful sight, and I always look forward to the hill on snowy days in appreciation of this view. I'm sure you can appreciate what I'm referring to if you've driven by. In the Indigenous worldview, there is a prophecy which speaks to the acknowledgement of 7 generations past and the next 7 generations to come. We stand here today as guardians of a vital responsibility to exercise discernment to ensure that our children and grandchildren and all generations to come have the greatest opportunity to thrive and flourish. It is to this teaching that I implore the city and the Greater St. Albert Catholic School District to wholeheartedly consider the existing beauty of the Mission Hill site with all of its history, all of its story, all of its energy, and all of its ability to support wellness and healing as a natural landscape to benefit the greater good of our community. If we would halt the sale of 13 and 15 Mission Ave in order to really think about the culture of this community, about the values we hold for this community, about the environment itself, and about our children and those to come, what is the message we are sending when we continue to develop green space without consideration for those to enjoy beauty in nature and even the beauty of creation? We know that changing the landscape of these plots will change the view of this space forever. The land can never be brought back to its original form. It is profound that someone 115 years ago had this in mind when the caveat of 1910 was signed. There was a message in that document not easily to be dismissed. The caveat speaks to the sale of this space by the Roman Catholic Church to the city for $1, with conditions including that, and this is number 1, said piece of land shall be used only for the purpose of a public park, so that no part of it can at any time be sold to any private party or corporate body for any private or corporate benefit. Number 2, that it will belong to the municipality of St. Albert to adopt a plan for the laying out of this ground for the best scenic advantages and to keep it in good order and condition. And it goes on. We have the opportunity to make this space a place of community, of remembrance, including the story about the Uville, the children of the Uville Residential School, the history of the Métis people here, of a place of learning and understanding, of gathering for our contemporary diverse population as we come together to celebrate the unique heritage of everyone who calls St. Albert home today. We can balance these goals with economic development and inclusive growth. Most profoundly, ensure that our historical cultural story remains intact, that children know that we value nature and the environment, that we value all people to come together by making a park which honors all of these goals. Together, we can apply for Indigenous grants and municipal grants and apply to local groups to create a space to be proud of that will attract tourists and people from outlying communities to come and enjoy our beautiful city. The view of the hill from Mission Avenue looking upwards is absolutely iconic and does not exist in any other city in our province, let alone country, due to its natural geography within an urban center. Let's not replace it with buildings and blocks. Let's create something beautiful. For this, we ask to please once again pause the sale to consider all ideas and opportunities. We can do this, and we can do it together and with everyone in this community. Let's put hearts and minds together on this one to save our Mission Hill. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up now to questions or Councillor Bermanski.
Thank you, and thank you for attending today again, Joanne. The question I have for you is you're speaking of green space being transformed to buildings, but that's not part of the discussion in this. There's a school there and a NABI building that was there that are the actual spaces that are in question. And the green space of the hill is not part of the land in discussion. So I'm just wondering why you're mentioning green space being changed.
Well, both of those buildings, one currently does not exist, thus green space. The second one will soon be demolished. I'm not sure what you would call that space if not green after the demolishment of the buildings.
Okay, and do you live in St. Albert?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bermanski. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your presentation, and that space actually means a lot to me too. I actually went to Father John for many years. So I'm just going to wonder, like, the meaningful and transparent in the motion. It sounds to me like your intention is not just to pause the sale for consultation, but to move it to a park. And I'm quite frankly, I'm neutral. But that's what it sounds to me. Is it's not just about a pause, but rather to move it towards that one goal. Is that what you were saying?
I said that we should get together and discuss ideas and opportunities.
So again, I guess.
Yes.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, I could see a park in the space. Absolutely.
Okay. So I guess the words meaningful and transparent come forward again. So how would you define meeting the terms of this motion?
Okay, I'm not sure that I use those words, but.
No, the motion has that. Sorry, I didn't want to say you did. The motion says meaningful and transparent, and we're trying to talk about meeting the terms of the motion. So how would you define meaningful and transparent so that we know we would met it?
Yes, I believe that meaningful, transparent consultation means that we sit down at the table and we discuss. I think I mentioned that previously, you know, what your interests are, what our interests would be, what your expected outcomes are, what our expected outcomes are, and really put our heads and hearts together to come up with a plan to continue to honor the entire history of the Mission Hill site and all of the Métis history it contains, the history connected to the Youville Residential School, the beauty of the land itself, and just really create a place where everyone in community can enjoy and invite community as well to participate in consultation. If we were talking transparent and open, I think that includes all of our citizens, and we need to hear it all. We need voices of the young, the old, the you know, diverse populations that exist here. Having worked in a school with a with a very international student population, it's amazing how many similarities we have when it comes to honoring land, which crosses all socioeconomic boundaries cultural boundaries. It's all there, that everyone honors the land, and I could see that being a benefit as we move forward to develop something really special for this place. So that's what it means to me.
And that sounds great. I mean, and also, I guess this is my other question. I guess it's the same question as before. So let's assume that we had this consultation, but that ultimately council chooses to move forward with the purchase of the sale of disposition of the lands, or of our land out of the two packages. Would that still be considered meaningful and transparent then to you?
Well, I believe so, right? We've
Okay.
listened to the people, and we will make good decisions based on what we hear from the population of the city and the Métis community, because again, we do want to honor our heritage and our existence in this community. I've grown up here my entire life. As you know, I have a long history here, and I was never, we never grew up knowing that Métis people had a place here or that they were valued in this community. And I think that's really, it's time to change that story. We were here. We've been here a long time.
Right, and I agree with you. But if the sale did continue and there was like, because the disposition of sale is, if it just continued as is, would it still, after the consultation happened, would it still be considered meaningful?
Well, I repeat, right?
Okay.
Like, if we've met the people and we've talked about it, I mean, what does consultation result in, right? We get to know each other better. Miss Phyllis Kelly alluded to that, right? We need to develop these relationships. And maybe the more we come to know each other and other members of our community, the stronger we can be united in whatever plan we choose to go forward with.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming today. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hughes. Just one last question, maybe to follow up on what Councillor Hughes was asking. If there is an opportunity to pause, engage for meaningful and transparent consultation, and it does continue to move forward, but the developer or the development or redevelopment of that space looks to incorporate some of that meaningful feedback that's given, would that suffice? Or is it, unless it ends up development of a park or something of a historical reference, that's the ultimate, I guess, goal of what the redevelopment would look like there?
That would be my goal. Absolutely. I would hate to see buildings on that site. Both of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any other questions or comments, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Alfred Larondel up to speak next. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Alfred Larondel. I'm the citizens representative for the St. Albert District 11 under the OMG, the Otipetzimac Métis government. And actually, I want to talk to you in regards to the sale. One of the things I think, like we talk about consultation and that, I know we have approached the city numerous times about getting involved, being part and that, but we've never been, actually, it has never come to play, because even with the past mayor and that, we've had numerous talk with her and that, and we were promised to do all kinds of stuff in that here in St. Albert. Because I think one of the issues here again is that I think St. Albert forgets the history. Everybody talks about Father Lacombe being here, but we were here way before Father Lacombe. My ancestors have land here that was ours. 3 lots, all sold. I've been doing digs all around St. Albert, and there's not a spot around here that you can't dig with, that you can't find bones. There's bones everywhere. There's buffalo bones. There's parts of the old history. We found old fencing. We found all kinds of parts of old equipment around here. And the one thing that really bugs me is that with my ancestors being from St. Albert, I look at all this land, all the river lots, that all our relatives and that had and owned here, and see that the city is just making all their money in that off of our ancestry, off our lands that we have here. And we've never, ever, ever, ever had an opportunity to be part of this. We've been promised numerous times about being involved. Nothing's ever come forward with it. And like even this land that you're selling, like that was a chunk of land actually we were supposed to be doing some scanning on for the missing children. And that wasn't done yet. There's some stuff with in behind the church there that there was a cross and stuff back in there. That hasn't been checked to see what's all in there as well. Like you guys keep forgetting about all you see is money, but you don't see the ancestry there. There is not a place in St. Albert you can go and dig and not find any type of history of our people in this area. We've been here for a very long time. We're still here and we're still fighting. I know that we were talking about consultation, getting along and working together on it, but to me, it sounds like you guys are wanting to just have a meeting to appease us. Because originally, like when you guys were talking about bringing up the sale, that it was, you never consulted with the Métis district here in St. Albert. There was no discussions there, and I think St. Albert forgets about that. Forgets about the history here, all the people that have gone here, all our relatives that were here and had lost their land and lands were taken. And we've even come across where they're going, well, there's no cultural significance in St. Albert. St. Albert is cultural. Every place you go here is cultural. Because our river lots ran from one end to the other, like they just went on, and they were big. They were farmlands. So we had all this area, and it's being developed, and we're not being talked to or even brought in to do any type of consultation or discussions. And I think what needs to happen is that I think the you guys, the council on that needs to kind of take a look at this and maybe see about starting to do some work with the district in here in St. Albert. Because like I said, St. Albert has forgotten their history. You come into St. Albert, what shows the history of the Métis here? You have a flag. That's it. We want to still show that we're still part of this. We want to be involved. We talked about doing stuff on the trails. So on that note, like I said, I think that there's a lot of talks that need to be done between the city of St. Albert and the district, because there is so much history here. I think St. Albert actually forgot who the people are of the land here, and that's the Métis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfred. I will move it to Councillor Mackay to start with questions.
Thank you, sir. I'm down here. I'm hiding. Thank you for your words. It kind of pains me because I mean they're your words, but I mean they're not my perception. So I'm not disputing your words. But I mean if you go downstairs in the museum right now, we have a whole Métis exhibit. Is it well advertised? I don't know. I mean, I'm aware of it, obviously, from my perspective.
Yeah.
The River Lots system is well recognized, and our Arts and Heritage Foundation has, some Métis families' home down on the River Lots, very close to the grain elevators. So, I mean, I'm just concerned, and I guess I just don't know if I'm not Métis, so I don't necessarily say what's consultation and what's not, but it kind of pains me if those types of things that you're saying you're not seeing and we're not seeing, or like what is that to us or to you then? Is it I mean it is our attempt to actually have meaningful kind of recognition of the contributions of the Métis people to our community. And I recognize your history and I recognize the foundational impact that you had on it. So I'm just, I guess what I'm saying in this long-winded kind of comment is where's the disconnect? Because you and I have spoken at many events and we've talked about how, you know, we try and recognize, you know, when we opened up the Grey Nuns White Spruce Forest Park system, we try to recognize the river lot system and how that impacts on today. So where's the disconnect?
Well, that's the thing is that I think part of the disconnect is that because of the structure of St. Albert, like with all your departments, everybody works separately in them. And in order to, because we've tried this before, in order to work with them, we had a young lady here working on behalf and she was working, but she was having issues because she had to keep going between different departments. And I think that's the disconnect. So if there is a way to maybe even bring the departments together with the district and meeting with them and working out some sort of a agreement there or something, or and try that. But that's what I found is the disconnect is because all the departments are separate. So you deal with one department and you get all agreements working and you're working good in that, then some other project comes up and it's at a different department. So then you got to figure out, okay, what department is that with? And let's do that. And because we talked with with the mayor, past mayor, and that about doing all kinds of tourism initiatives. And that because there's a lot of these trails, there's certain areas that have stories to them. And so we were talking about allowing us to be part and work with the city, especially like with tourism. And we wanted to look at doing some interactive boards on the trail or some activities or something like that to make people aware that when they're walking on the trails, it's just not the trails of St. Albert, but it's the trails of history, the history of St. Albert. They should be knowing that when they're walking on the trails that the Laurendales had these lots over here in this area, or there was a incident that happened over in this area and things like that. And educating people when they're on the trails and letting them know that like the rich culture of St. Albert is Métis and letting them know that it's still here and it's still surviving. But like I said, that's kind of the thing that scares me. You guys get this lot, then I'll go, maybe we should get rid of lot 24. Maybe we should get rid of lot 56. Like, I don't know, but that's how it seems to be going. And so we're slowly, it's like, and I know, and the Arts and Council, the Art Council, I've worked with Ann and that there numerous times, but her direction is totally different. She doesn't want to really focus on the Métis of St. Albert. She's more looking at the French and that in that area. And we're going, well, no, the French was part of that, but the Métis are the people that were here.
Yeah, I recognize that. And I mean, I think part of the challenge is, I mean, now that we're dealing with government to government, and part of the challenge with the whole truth and reconciliation for us is what level do we engage in? How do we figure that out? Because we're city council, you know, we're not the king, we're not the federal government, we're not the provincial government.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's important that we have those relationships, or we try to figure out those relationships. But quite frankly, I'll throw it back to you. We sometimes don't know who we should be talking to either. I mean, I talked to Archie one time and I talked to you, and then I talked to Brad, I talked to, you know, so I mean.
What we can do too is also send a list out to everybody with the names of everyone and their roles.
Yeah, and I know that our administration is trying to do that. I know Mr. Dooley definitely is trying, and Sam's trying. And you're right, we do change. I mean, you're gonna find as you move into government, you're gonna have your own bureaucracies too. But we are trying. I mean, and so this is why I'm giving this motion a great deal of consideration. And because, as you've heard a few times, I don't know what meaningful is, and I don't want to put my interpretation on that.
Well, and that's why we need to get together and talk about it, to discuss with meaningful on both sides, right?
True.
And I think that would be a good start. But like I
Yeah.
said, with the sales of this land, like there's so many other pieces to it that like, have you guys checked to see what's within the grounds around there and that? Because like I said, that was an area that was that was picked out to be an area for us to do the ground penetrating radar for missing children for
Yeah.
graves.
I mean, there'll be an opportunity to ask administration after we're done and I can ask that question, but I think
Yeah.
there's been some work done, but that's not
Yeah.
for me, but I'll ask administration.
And,
that.
and see, and that's the other thing, you gotta be careful in these areas
Mhm.
because of the culture and that in
Yeah.
there. That, like I said, especially up in that area, we don't know where the graves are.
Mhm.
And for the city, so you sell this land, and so what happens when they dig up a grave?
Well, yeah, I mean,
That'll be a big problem.
well, yes, it will be. I imagine there's all sorts of rules and regulations around what would happen and all that. You're right, other than the emotional and the impact of that too. Anyways, I think you know where I'm coming from now in
Yeah.
relation to some of the challenges and things that I'm
Yeah.
having
So-
here. So, I know that there's others that want to ask you a question.
Well, maybe, I can meet with you and I'll bring Brad, he's the captain here.
Yeah,
And we can have a meeting and discuss.
I know Archie's been threatening me to take me down the river and show me the bones there, so.
Mhm. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. We will move it to Councillor Cortash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you too. Oh, sorry, don't run away yet, Mr. Lirandell.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Thank you very much, Representative Lirandell. Just to follow up on something that Councillor Mackay had said here, you indicated during your presentation that there's no representation of Métis in St. Albert other than the flag. As Councillor Mackay pointed out, we have an exhibit right now in the museum about St. Albert's role in the Northwest Resistance. We've got the Arts and Heritage Foundation that has put a lot of time and effort into developing and programming the Métis River lots close by here. We've got the Founders Walk placards that do identify Métis history in St. Albert. They're not perfect, but they identify a lot of the Métis history as you're walking down the trails, as you mentioned. We have a exhibit in the art gallery right now that features Métis art. So I guess my question to you is, do you wish to modify your statement or retract your statement that there's no representation other than a Métis flag?
Yeah, well, so if I'm driving through St. Albert, how do I know that there's any Métis here? Like you're driving, so I'm a tourist, I'm coming into St. Albert. I'm looking around and saying, okay, well, what's so special about St. Albert? What's the history here? Do you see it anywhere when you drive? It's nowhere. There's no any sign that Métis people lived here or are still living here. There's nothing. Unless they know about going to the museum or to the art gallery, stuff like that. But besides that, they don't know. No one knows. I talked to lots of people around St. Albert. They don't know the history. They just go, it's a nice place to live. That's it. They don't know anything about the families that lived here and that had the river lots and the lives that happened with the people here and how they were the lots were taken from the people that lived here and how they've been developed, and they don't like, that's what I mean, is that there's nothing to show. Like you go downtown here, you walk around, there's nothing Métis. What do you see?
There's Métis art, there's Métis, okay, man, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's a lot more stuff that the district can be involved with, you guys, so with the city to do more stuff like that. Like they have access to tourism dollars.
Yeah.
To help with developing stuff on the trails or like even like let's mark out the original St. Albert Trail. Because we know that the St. Albert Trail, the road there, that's not the original road.
You had mentioned a couple of times during your presentation, or a couple of times now, that the area in question, 13 and 15 Mission, is an area that was identified for possible grave sites and bones. Do you have, be insensitive, do you have any evidence or anything like those specific sites? One was a a pond before the building of Father Jan. And we have photos of that site in the archives. We were going back, 120 years or so. Do you have any reason to believe that those sites in particular, 13 and 15 Mission, were grave sites?
Yeah, well, it was done, was it 3 years ago, Archie? That they came out there, like the university. It came out and we had super notes from she does the archaeology and that, but she does also the ground penetrating radar. And what was done is that they did a look of the areas and within the churches and that, and through all the information that they gathered up, pinpoint areas in here in St. Albert for scanning. And they done it through the University of Alberta.
If you could send any information that you have in that regard, I'd be interested in reading it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Cortesh. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here today. I think like a lot of this conversation right now is some of the stuff that we would be talking about in consultation or in engagement. Do you need a minute?
Sorry?
I was just saying, a lot of the conversations that we're having right now, it would be conversations that would happen if we were in engagement with if the city was engaging with Indigenous communities. And so I just really want to clarify something because like, would I be correct to say that the Indigenous community, the Métis community, is not asking to make the final decisions of what happens with this land, but are asking to be voices at the table and to just be able to offer their input and history? Like, am I correct to say that? Like, I know like Joanne spoke and Phyllis spoke and you spoke, and what I'm not hearing is that you're asking to make the final decisions, but what I am hearing is you're asking to be a voice at the table and to just have that engagement before we proceed with whatever happens with this land. Is that correct?
No,
No, okay.
no, I'm requesting that you don't sell it.
Okay,
And to be,
yeah,
definitely until at least, talks with the district and that, and looking at those plans and those possible areas for graves and stuff. And I'm saying, but like how much more land is gonna be sold here and still not used for, like, you're selling all this land off there, but we're not having any room for any of the cultural pieces. Any of the gatherings or getting together and stuff like that, like all these places are being developed in that, and we're taking away from the St. Albert. Like the land is there for people's enjoyment and that, like you develop that, like there's not gonna be any area left there because like we hold different events there and that and things in that area. So like, then that's gone. And then that's another area that we're not allowed to have events at. So then where do we go from there? Like, that's what I mean. You just keep taking land from St. Albert to do different events and that, and especially for the Métis and the First Nations that want to do stuff around here. Like it's getting to be slim pickings. But that's what I mean. Like, it's still St. Albert's just kind of swallowing up the Métis identity in here. So I would prefer not to sell that.
thank you.
Alfred, thank you very much for your time and your input this morning. And I believe that's it for questions right now. Thank you. I would invite April Dalcourt Jones up to speak now.
Good morning.
I'm April Delcourt Jones. I'm the president of the St. Albert Riverlot Métis Association. I'm here to support the St. Albert District 11. My family is from St. Albert. We've been here for over 200 years. I live in St. Albert in Mission. I go by that property every day. It's very difficult for me to sit back and watch the city of St. Albert, who maybe it's because of you don't understand our history here. It's hard for me to watch that the city assumes that they can just do whatever they want. And let's be honest, this is our land. This is our land here. Be honest with you. It was stolen from us. That land you're talking about belonged to the Boudreau family. They went on a buffalo hunt, came back, and it was stolen by the nuns and the Catholic Church. This has got to stop. This is 2025. This is not the 1800s where you can just walk all over us anymore. Like, it's enough. I wanted to know if the Historical Resources Act agreement had been consulted in looking into that land. It's very significant land. And when you ask about, do we have proof that there's children's graves there? Hell no, we don't. But we want to find them. We want to find them. And that area needs to be scanned and it needs to be looked at deeply. I've, over the years, worked with the old local, St. Albert Métis local, and I spoke, and I knew the old mayor on a personal basis as well. And in trying to speak with her about the consultation that needs to go on here to consider the Métis people needs to be more in depth. And to be honest with you, I am tired. I am tired of St. Albert talking the talk, but not walking the walk. This is our land. And to be honest with you, the city owns this land now, to be honest, if you go back in history, illegally. This is the truth of the matter. The script system that came in replacement of our land was fraudulent, and it's been proven at the Ottawa level that that was fraudulent. So I guess, in my opinion, that area, we had a Métis function there this summer, and that's what that area should be for. Until we can get in there and do all the proper scanning that we need to do to find our children. That's right, our children. You tell me, if somebody came and stole your children and you don't know where they're buried, are you going to sell that land? Are you going to allow developers to come in and excavate all their bones? Are you going to allow that? How do you sleep at night? Honestly, I propose that we make that area into a park and that we deeply consider the Métis a little more seriously. Because the amount of blowing sunshine up our ass is enough. We need serious, serious consultation here. These are our families. These are our children. This is our land.
Thank you very much, Ms. Delcourt Jones. I would invite, if there is any council that would like to ask any questions or provide any feedback. It doesn't look like that's, the only question I have is you made reference to a relationship with former mayor. Sorry, can you clarify which mayor you're referencing?
Kathy
Oh,
Harris.
sorry, okay, I missed that. Thank you. I think that's it. So thank you very much for your presentation and your time. Okay, so with that, we're gonna move to now, pardon me? Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna move now to our final speaker, which is Shelley Nichols from the St. Albert Chamber of Commerce. If you'd like to speak. No.
Thank you, your worship and members of council. My name is Shelley Nicol and I'm the executive director of the St. Albert District Chamber of Commerce. And I am here today on behalf of the Chamber's Board of Directors to share a business perspective regarding the future of 13 Mission Avenue. At the onset, we wish to affirm that the Chamber and its members support reconciliation and respectful, meaningful engagement with Indigenous communities. These principles are important to the business community and essential to building a strong, inclusive, and forward-looking city. From an economic perspective, the Chamber acknowledges the potential of 13 Mission Avenue as a catalyst for downtown revitalization. Thoughtful redevelopment of this site has a capacity to support local businesses, encourage investment, increase foot traffic, and contribute to a vibrant and resilient downtown core. Outcomes that align with Council's long-standing goals for economic development and community vitality. At the same time, the Chamber recognizes the decisions involving public lands, particularly those with historical and cultural significance, require care, respect, and thoughtful consideration. We acknowledge the importance of Indigenous perspectives and understand Council's responsibility to balance economic, social, and cultural reconciliation considerations in its deliberations. Given the complexity of this issue and the perspectives involved, the Chamber's intent today is not to comment on procedural matters or the timing of Council's decision-making. Rather, our role is to underscore the broader economic opportunity that the site represents for the community while respecting Council's process and its responsibility to determine the appropriate path forward. The Chamber remains supportive of Council's efforts to advance downtown revitalization in a manner that is respectful, transparent, and aligned with community values. We also remain committed to engaging constructively should Council wish to draw on the business community's perspective on this matter as this matter progresses. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Shelley, for being here. I would ask if there are any questions. Doesn't look like it, so thank you very much for taking the time this morning. Okay, we will move to item 4, which is now the opportunity of business arising from the presentations for council to engage administration here with any questions, comments, or feedback. So I will open it up to council to request to speak. And it looks like Councillor McKay is going to be the first one on the list.
I apologize, my one finger didn't seem to work very well. Question in relation to one of the last presenters made a comment that she made a question inquiry whether we had consulted with the Alberta Historical Act, and I believe we have, but I would just like to confirm that just for the members of the gallery that we, prior to being involved in tearing down the building, we had some consultations with the Alberta government.
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Councillor Mackay, thank you for the question. The city did conduct a historical inventory assessment back in 2022 and did receive approval from the province, which indicated that to the province's knowledge, there were no sites, no identified sites within the NABI property that we excavated then, or we removed.
But just to be, that was just in that small little parcel where the NABI is. It's not, didn't include where the Father Jan's school was, or more up into the hill either, or did it?
My understanding, well, yeah, so our historical inventory assessment was for the Nabby property. My understanding is that St. Albert Catholic is doing their own for the Father Jan site, and I don't know the status of anything on the hill.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to just make sure, we were just talking about that little piece parcel that we're talking about today. Anyways, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. Just for the record and for clarity, though we're not going to speak on behalf of the Catholic School Board's motivation or intention for their site, there's been a coordinated effort at what redevelopment might look like. But would it be fair to say that in the event that either party looks to change its course of path, it would probably reset the expectations or allow for further, deeper, meaningful engagement with the relevant stakeholders in the community?
Yeah, I certainly can't speak to what the Greater St. Albert Catholic School Division has received or what their intention is. I mean, it's ultimately for their board to determine. As was mentioned, we did decide to market the two parcels at the same time. So it's not a single effort. It's two parcels that are available at the same time is probably simplistically the way to put it. And so a developer could look conceivably, or a purchaser conceivably look at trying to get both parcels or one or the other. And if one of those changes in terms of the timelines, then that changes the potential for the procurement of both, I guess, speaking from a purchaser's perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Doesn't look like there's any further questions. So I would maybe endeavor that we take a 5-minute recess, 10-minute recess, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Alfred, sorry. Sorry, I didn't see your, I just saw it now, but yeah. Okay, we're gonna reconvene. I'd ask those in the gallery if they could take their seats if they're planning on staying. We're gonna start the meeting back up. Thank you. I'd move this now to item 5, which is our consent agenda, and ask for a counselor to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Counselor Cortash, or sorry, there we go. We're gonna actually, okay, Counselor Cortash, we'll let you have this one.
That the recommendations in the following agenda report be approved. I have to read the whole thing, correct? No? Yes, thanks, Counselor Mackay. 6.1, 2026 budget meeting minutes of November 4th, 5th, 6th, and December 1st, 2025. Committee of the whole meeting minutes of November 29th, 2025, and the regular council meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2025. 7.1, the Arts Development Advisory Committee. Oh, and recommendation bylaw 26/2009 St. Albert Place Municipal Historic Resource Amendment. 7.2 Community Services Advisory Committee. Recommendation 2026 FCSS program funding. 7.3 Community Services Advisory Committee recommendation 2026 outside agency grants. 7.4 2026 public appointments to St. Albert civic agencies and quasi judicial boards. 8.1 Alberta Community Partnership Grant Edmonton Region Collaborative Framework. 8.2 2026 Municipal and Utility Budget. 9.1 Bylaw 24/2025 Master Rates Bylaw Schedule H for second and third readings. 9.2 Bylaw 25/2025 Utility Bylaws for second and third readings.
Thank you very much, Counselor Cortash. I don't believe anybody has pulled anything off consent, so we can move this to vote. Thank you. Perfect. That motion passed unanimously. With that, we're gonna just review 7.4. I think this is an opportunity for us to read out the appointments today for the the 2026 public appointments to the St. Albert civic agencies and quasi judicial boards. In the event that there are individuals watching to see the appointments, I will endeavor to do this as efficiently as possible. The Arts and Development Advisory Committee on a 2-year term, Megan Deisinger, Christy Fleck, Becky Hall, and Rachel Hunka, and Christy Kortash on a 1-year term. The Assessment Review Board on all 3 of these individuals be on a 4-year term. Bill Newton, Joey Orchik, and Steve Whiteneck, and I apologize in advance for the mispronunciations of anybody's names. The Community Services Advisory Committee on a 3-year term, Samantha Balzer, on a 2-year term, Emily Nielsen and Carly White, and on a 1-year term, Sage Yakimchuk. The Environmental Advisory Committee, all of the individuals on a 2-year term, Kevin Asham, Brett Bolkoy, Jordan Lucas, Alan Luck, and Monique Vedich. The International Audit Steering Committee is 1 new individual, which is Stephen Mikas on a 2-year term. The Library Board is Jennifer Frietta on a 3-year term. And the Policing Committee on 3-year terms, Andre Kostopoulos and Bill Turnham. On a 2-year term will be Kristen Kalmbach, and on a 1-year term will be Sheila McDonald. The Senior Advisory Committee will be on 2-year terms, Robert Edmonds, Alan Ference, and Lori Jack. On a 1-year term will be Heidi Granger and Abel Urbina. And lastly, on the Subdivision and Development Review Board, all of which are on 2-year terms, is Greg Lindgren, Feenan Long, Bill Newton, Gary Rourke, and Dan Santucci. With that, that concludes the appointments for this upcoming 2026 year. Thank you very much. Okay, committee business request for decisions, emergent items. I don't believe we have anything. And now we will, I will open it up for our counselors around the table to bring us our civic and external agency updates. Who would like to start us off?
I can start because maybe that'll give a kind of a template for other counselors who potentially haven't had to do this before. So I, in my role as a representative of the City of St. Albert on the Aero Utilities, we did have our first organizational meeting earlier in November. Again, everybody else stepped back, leaving me at the table to assume the chair. And so I was voted in as the chair again for a 1-year term. So as an organizational meeting, we just kind of went through kind of just a little high level introduction to the role, as we've got a significant number of new members on the Utilities Commission. Again, for those that aren't aware, there's 13 municipalities surrounding the city of Edmonton, and we are their only wastewater treatment facility in the neighborhood, although we do have a joint partnership with EPCOR, and we share flows throughout the region. And so we'll be moving on to our next meeting will be in January, and that'll be more of a full day orientation for new members, just to get a little bit better understanding. There are of interest, there is a plan going forward where there will be a series of workshops that will be available to counselors in the region to attend, and that's more just to give an awareness of who Aero Utilities is and some of the opportunities and challenges that we're facing. The policing committees and the next one that I'm on, and we did meet twice while during this past review period. The first time in November, and it was just a regular meeting at that time, so really nothing to report on that. And I actually, as I was down at the Alberta Munis, so I wasn't there, but there was nothing on the agenda that I need to bring forward to council for information. The second meeting was just held last week, and this was an important meeting because 2 of our senior members of the policing committee are stepping down and not seeking reappointment. And Both of them have served in the chairman role before, so Ian Sanderson and Paul Specht, and I just want to publicly acknowledge the fantastic work that they've done. They've taken on a big leadership role, not only for our community, but for the exact province of Alberta as we move through some of the, how do I say this politely? We are moving through some of the challenges and opportunities that the provincial government is presenting to us with the whole Police Act review, police oversight review, and potentially a new police service for the province of Alberta. And so St. Albert, you can be assured, has been well represented at those meetings. And our advice and our experience has been sought out by the provincial government, both from administration's perspective and also the minister. Internal audit didn't meet this yet. I think we have one upcoming, don't we, Sheena? I think there's something, no, not until New Year. I really all the committees, other than we did go to Alberta Munis, but I don't think that there's anything really big to report on. Sandy looks like she's ready to report on that one. So anyway, so I will leave it at that. And hopefully that's a template that you guys can jump off of as you report back on your council meetings.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. It appears you've done this once or twice before. We will move this now to Councillor Clark for her update.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Alberta Munis, Amanda, Patrick and I, it was our first go round, as was the mayor, and it was obviously an interesting experience and got to meet a lot of wonderful people and understand some of the processes a little bit better. In November the 27th, I met with the Senior Advisory Committee and received a warm welcome. Obviously introduced myself and advised that the alternative was Councillor Patrick, who had sent her regrets that evening. The chair provided a comprehensive update on the committee's activities over the last year and advised that a full report would be presented to council in early 2026. Some of the additional updates that they provided, members provided an update on the Housing Coalition update, the Older Adult Working Group, the Seniors and Elders Service Awards, they're planning for 2026, which is just beginning, and the staff liaison provided an update from their perspective as well. On November the 25th, I attended as the alternate council member the Community Services Advisory Committee meeting. Councillor Patrick was there for about an hour, but was unable to attend the full meeting. The committee was very welcoming, and at the beginning, they moved in camera to review the many grant applications received for both the FCSS program funding and the outside agency grants. Given the total ask exceeded the available funding, the committee engaged in very thoughtful and fulsome discussion, and I heard a wide range of perspectives, and I can assure council that any reductions in the funding requests were not taken lightly. It was a difficult process for the group, knowing they could not meet all of the application before them, and I want to acknowledge each and every one of them and their respectful discussions that they did bring to the table. The committee's recommendations were presented to council and approved by this council today. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Cortash.
Do we get to ask questions of each other? Councillor Clark, I had a question about the two different CSAC grants. So one is for FCSS and one is what's the other one? The other one's operating funding for whom or for what? Like, what are the conditions behind that grant? Maybe that's a question for you or for admin. I don't know, but
yeah, I think admin would be better.
Sure. So the question was just the community, the two grants from CSAC. The second one, I know the one is for FCSS, and perhaps you could give me a 30-second. What's the other one for? What are the for the programming?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll ask So Elizabeth Budd perhaps take a first stab at it and she can quarterback the appropriate staff.
Actually, specific to the operating grant funding that is administered out of Recreation and Parks, but for the FCSS funding, that component is an eligible program that falls within the preventive component of our work, specific to what has been identified through the community social needs assessment. So it's program alignment and in those organizations. So some of FCSS programming we offer as the department internally, and those are those external services.
Sorry, yeah, the question was with respect to the other grant, the operating grant, not the FCSS one. So I just know there's some interesting programs in there, and is that a pool of money that the city sets aside on an annual basis? And then like, what are the criteria behind that, the operating grants? Who's it for?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Coratash. So it is facilitated through our grant portfolio that we manage all of the civic grants. So the outside agency grant program specifically is for eligible community groups to assist with offsetting their annual operating expenses, mostly around specifically staffing and facility operational costs. So there is an eligibility requirement that they need to meet in being a St. Albert registered not-for-profit organization, and they must offer community support services in either recreation, cultural, or social support, which provides support to help vulnerable residents in being successful in our community. So that's kind of the broad scope, and it is a funded program through our municipal budget.
Okay, thanks. I guess
You're
I have
welcome.
Now it's your turn to update. Yep.
So yeah, Arts Development Advisory Committee, I received a nice email from Councillor Birmansky advising me to take notes because I would have to present to council. Unfortunately, that email came after the meeting. And so, but I think I can recall what we discussed. So there's a nice little update. The awards for the Mayor's Arts Awards have been adjudicated, and that'll be coming forward on March. I think it's the middle of March sometime. We had a little bit of a year in review in terms of what's going on in the public art scene in St. Albert, which was pretty exciting. We have lots of things that happened this past year. There was a little bit of catch up from some COVID funds that were carried over, not spent in the last few years. And so there was a lot of public art happening this year in St. Albert. An artist was hired for the extension of Red Willow Trail on the north side of the river from the Children's Bridge through to the White Spruce Forest. So that's going to feature Métis indigenous plants that are important to Métis people, or native plants important to Métis people along that stretch of Red Willow Trail. So that's pretty exciting. The BMX track, if you've noticed the artwork, and I didn't know the artwork on the one side of the BMX track is great, but if you go to the other side and look at it from the where the spectators sit, it's even more incredible. So that was completed with the help of the BMX folks as well. Element Park up in Erin Ridge is going to have a beautiful mosaic in the park there. We've had the banner. Apologize if I get the names wrong, but the beautiful banners that are on the posts downtown St. Albert by 4 different artists are pretty incredible too. And then you can read about that out front of the community hall. So yeah, lots going on in the public art world in St. Albert this year. And then on the Environmental Advisory Committee, the committee met and deliberated all of the environmental grants that groups are eligible to apply for. And I've gone off of my, and so just those don't have to come to council. I didn't realize that those are just approved by the Environmental Advisory Committee, and they are approved at that stage. So I'll forward the email to the rest of council that has a breakdown of which groups received how much. There's some pretty cool projects in there. We have a high school student that's growing tomatoes for the food bank and setting up a garden for the food bank and providing plants to anyone that wants and that uses the food bank services, and a lot of other support for other environmental education and nature education programs and community gardens and whatnot in St. Albert. The program, we did have $50,000 available and only allocated $40,450. So there's money left on the table. So any community groups out there that have any kind of environmental project that they'd like to need some assistance, some financing for it, encourage them to apply next year. And I think that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any questions. So Councillor Patrick, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to Councillor Clark. She had a really great update on the Community Services Advisory Committee. I had a previous event that I had committed to that night. And so I was only able to attend for the first hour and thankful that Councillor Clark was able to be there for that. So, and I'm looking forward to meeting again in January. I think it's the third week of January, if I remember right. On December 3rd, I did get to meet with the Youth Advisory Committee, and that was a fun meeting, and it was really great to get to meet some of the youth. We had the environmental team from the City of St. Albert and the Indigenous Relations team present to do presentations for them, and they had some questions and some input, so that was really cool. A fun fact about all of the youth in the room that I thought was really interesting, 3 out of 9 of the youth in the room that night read the St. Albert Gazette weekly. So I thought that was really cool, because I would wonder if youth are reading that. So 3 out of 9, I thought that was pretty cool. And so, yeah, we'll be meeting again in the new year, and that's all I have for that.
Great, thank you very much. I don't have any committee updates. The ones that I am on will start in January, and a lot of them I sit in a second position on. So with that, we can move to, sorry. Yeah, I forget that I look around and they're not here. We will go to, and they can't list as speakers. So Councillor Bermansky.
Hello, okay. Thank you. I had my first meeting with Homeland Housing Board on November 27th. It was more of an organizational meeting, and it was great to meet the new board and a lot of new members to the board. We went through our organizational planning. I've learned all the work that goes into that group, which is immense. We had the chief CEO report and a director of finance report. Will be going into the budget going forward. That will be upcoming this Thursday, so 2 days from now. And looking forward to all the projects that this group's working on. They did update a few maintenance projects that they're responsible for, and it's a vast group of buildings and responsibilities that are held by this group. So I'm looking forward to working with them in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. Actually, all my committees, so all haven't left yet. They'll be meeting in the new year. So, and to Councillor Mackay, I think the audit, it has to be meeting in for Q1. I think we could be meeting March. So that's it. Thank you.
We'll audit that.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we can move to 12, which is council motions. The first one, unless there's a change, this is the last reading for the capital charter for the Performing Arts Center given by Councillor Jolie, or previous Councillor Jolie. Doesn't look like there's anybody that's going to make a motion to bring that forward. Okay. 12.2, which is regarding the disposition of 13 Mission Avenue. There are 2 motions here, and I would invite Councillor Patrick to start us off.
Okay, so that the 20-day notice requirement in section 119.9 of the procedure bylaw be waived.
Oh, yeah. Before we accept it, I'll open it up for questions.
Mhm.
Were you going to speak to it, or are you going to ask questions of it?
There is a question on screen too, Mayor.
Oh, okay, Councillor Bermansky.
Okay, for administration, in all fairness, like to this process, the 20-day notice requirement, can it have ramifications from due diligence that was followed prior to this point in time?
Thank you, Councillor Urbanski. It certainly can, depending on the situation at hand. In this case, I think the level of preparation we put into it, I don't think an additional time would provide for additional clarity or additional information to be added into the AR.
Okay, that's my only question. I'll have debate further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no questions for administration, we will move this to debate. And I will let Councillor Patrick. Okay, if there's no questions, we can move this to vote.
Yeah,
Or
just
you have
for
questions?
clarification.
Oh, I was letting Councillor Patrick open if she wanted to open, but if
Yeah.
there's nothing really else to open. You can speak to it.
Yeah, the only thing that I would speak to is just that I'm hoping that we can make the decision on the second motion today. And so I'm hoping that council will vote for this motion.
Okay, Councillor Cortesh.
That was going to be my point as well. I really think it's important. We've had a lot of feedback and I really think it's important that we debate and be able to speak to the motion that Councillor Patrick's brought forward. And in order to be able to do that, we need to waive this the notice requirement. And so, of course, this isn't a motion on pausing the sale. This is just whether or not we can have that debate. And I think that's really important today. So hopefully my colleagues agree. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any other, oh, sorry, Councillor Bermansky.
Thank you. My debate related to this, I came in with a different opinion today than I had yesterday. And after seeing some of the comments on social media, there's items out on social media that are items that haven't even been presented publicly. There's things that have never been mentioned prior. There's conversation on many things that have never been presented in the room. I'm receiving letters from people yesterday and more letters today, and I'm feeling now that in fairness to due process, I believe it's important to stick to the 20-day requirement when information keeps coming forward and it's being presented, and it's hard to clarify what to value and what to sort out and what to, it's a difficult decision to make when we're being provided with information still today and by letters and so on. And the difficulty is for me that our process is, we have the process in fairness of the 20-day notice requirement to adhere to that process of taking time to digest what's going on, look at all the information, be able to make sure we have all the information. A lot of the information that we received in this motion was at the 11th hour, after much of what's coming to us has just keeps coming down. And my concern is specifically what I was seeing last night is the social media conversation about things that I've never heard, at the council level and I think to make a decision for me at this particular time without clarity on everything that's going on in the room right now is forced and probably not the best way to make a decision. And I feel that the maintaining the waiver notice of the 20-day, that's the proper order of business, that we'd have time to all reflect and get a little bit more grounded on looking at everything and making the best decision. So from my personal view, I find it very difficult to make this sudden decision or decision earlier than what would be the norm on something so important. So for that reason, I can't support the waiver on this one. So thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question, administration? Just, I know it's a little out of sync in relation to this, but I think part of the conversation, I know, just at your permission, it's a little outside of things. Yeah,
I mean, on the understanding that this is
just directly germane to the actual motion.
yeah, so it is a little out of order, but if the chair so desires, we can probably proceed on that
It's
basis.
entirely up to you. Mine in relation is the December 19th date, or this December 19th is the date of the closure of the This, or
We
what-
received, the request has been closed. December 19th was the completion of our evaluation and the
Okay,
commitment to get
so
back. to any
that's
proposal.
what I wanted clarification of. So the it's closed, but the evaluation occurs on the 19th.
The evaluation is occurring. We'll communicate the decision or the results to proponents on the 19th.
Okay, just based on that email. I don't even know how I can address the email that we got then. In relation to timing that you mentioned from the Catholic School Board, so I don't know how that impacts you. So,
If you're good, Mayor, I can say that. And so our understanding is that Greater St. Albert Catholic School Board has not made a determination or will not make a determination on 15 mission until sometime in January. I don't know what that date is. And so given the nature of our proposals and the potential for a joint both parcels of land to be included in a submission, there's not much we could do in terms of solidifying a purchase pending, discussions with Greater St. Albert Catholic after their board had chosen to make a decision.
But the process could, like, you could begin the process with administration from the Catholic School Board.
We were always talking, but there's short of a decision. There's not much
Yeah,
we can go.
But you can make my point, I guess, is, and for clarification is the discussions is on the 19th will be starting the process of choosing a successful bidder then.
Maybe not at the end of the day, because a successful bidder for both parcels also requires Greater St. Albert Catholic to make a determination on the way ahead. So there's nothing formal we could do.
Yeah, and that's hence my question, that just excuse my tardiness on this one, but when you're old, it sometimes takes a while to get up to your top elevator level. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think maybe it is fair to say that this information would be. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Just to your point, maybe it's fair to say that this would have to be communicated to just what the situation is at now.
I just don't know.
Yeah, we'll go to Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Can I just follow up that question from Councillor Mackay? What I think what he's specifically asking, and forgive me if I misinterpret you, Ken, but that if, let's say, this motion does not pass and it has to be debated in January, then you just simply pause any negotiations or decisions until this motion has been decided. Is that correct? Like if we don't debate it today, it's not going to affect whether or not ultimately we move forward with the sale. Would that be correct, Mayor?
Yeah,
Mayor,
that was kind of the intent, because I mean, I wasn't sure how I could get the information on the floor, in the sense of saying, so the information just came to me this morning that the other party that we have are with on this potential sale has not made any decision and won't make any decision until the 15th, or maybe they have, and I don't have the information in front of us. So I'm wondering, I mean, do we have a time need? Is there an urgency to waive 20 days? Because if we don't, we have to discuss this in January 13th. We're not gonna, we'll still have the same discussion on the main motion. It's just all we're talking about now is the 20-day. Initially, I was thinking, let's have the 20-day discussion or waiving it because of this December 19th date, but maybe that's not relevant anymore. I know that's a question, not debate.
Councillor Patrick.
So Mayor, sorry, that was my question to Mr. Fletcher, is if we do not waive it, does this actually preclude us from being able to make a decision or again, move forward with the sale in January?
So
will we just pause it or until
Councillor,
then, or?
if you don't waive it, we will communicate with the proponents on the 19th that our position, but it's incumbent upon the other party to make a decision in January. That's about all we can tell them on the 19th.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Patrick.
if I believe I'm understanding this correctly, so if the first part of this motion to waive the 20-day notice is passed today, we can still go ahead with the second motion. And I understand that we have another party to consider. However, I do think that right now we have all of this sort of conversations today fresh in our mind. And so I feel strongly that we can still go ahead with the second motion. So I'm hoping that we can vote to go ahead today.
Just a minor point of order, just from nuance. Was that your closing? Because I was asking a question. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but yeah, no, not as your closing, but to Councillor Bermansky's point of, there's new information that's coming. My concern is that if we delay it another 20 days, that information that will come available will then just continue for 20 days. And then on the last day at the 11th hour, we're going to get more information to reconsider. So there's been ample opportunity for feedback. We've seen it now on 2 occasions here and with a very engaged stakeholder group in chambers. So I would be in favor of waiving the 20-day period and having the debate today. Now, if Councillor Patrick would like to close, you can close.
I apologize, Counselor. I am still learning some of the procedures and just the order of things. So I already said what I needed to say, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we can move it to a vote, please. That motion has passed with the supermajority of 6 out of 7. So we will be able to move to the second motion presented by Councillor Patrick.
That administration pause the disposition of 13 Mission Avenue until meaningful and transparent engagement with local Indigenous communities, including the Otipemisiwak government and St. Albert Métis District 11 representatives, as well as local First Nation elders, survivors, and descendants is conducted, and that administration return to council regarding the results of the engagement upon its conclusion.
Thank you very much. Before we accept it, are there any further questions for administration at this time? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Actually, my questions are to Councillor Patrick. So I'm going to try to figure out the wording because some of the wording in your motion is challenging to be able to meet from administration if I look at it. So how would we be defining meaningful and transparent? Because my understanding is that many of the communities that you mentioned have already met once with administration last week. So how would you see it? Like what is the definition of meaning and transparent so that they can actually meet the terms of this motion?
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Meaningful and transparent. So it's actually can be a little bit tough to put this into words because when Indigenous people, when you gather with an Indigenous group or Indigenous elders, you often will sit in circle and there isn't necessarily a definition or a way to describe how you can engage with Indigenous people or elders. You sit, you listen, and you, like often an elder will say you break bread, you have conversation. And that is actually what is meaningful, is sitting, listening, getting to know each other, communicating. And so that's what I would call meaningful. In terms of transparent, I think transparent would be, are we being open and honest with that community? And it's like reciprocity. Is that relationship going back and forth? So that's how I would describe it. I hope that's okay. If you have any other questions.
Yeah. So, and thank you. Because what I'm trying to figure out is how administration would meet the terms of this. Would it be just that they meet, they listen to the stories, and they're respectful to listening to the stories? Or how can they meet these terms? Because ultimately we're giving administration a direction and they have to be able to meet them, right? So and that's when you said this definition is difficult to attain, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is how they attain it. So is it that they will just need to meet and listen to the stories about what happened, their understanding with this land, or how can they meet this term? Is it just the stories? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I would say that they would meet and they would have conversations and they would like work together, I guess. I don't know how to define that. But they would listen, I suppose, and come back with like kind of conversations. It's so hard to define the Indigenous ways of like knowing and being, because a lot of times and I've talked about this a lot, it goes back to that reciprocity. So it's just that relationship back and forth. And if you can sit with an elder or an Indigenous community or group and you have a good conversation, it doesn't always have to be that you're in total agreeing with each other, that you're in, but the fact that you can sit in a circle or in a conversation and respect each other, that you walk away feeling relevant and respected, that's meaningful. And I don't doubt that our administration has done that in the past and would continue to do that.
So from the speakers that came, it seemed that many of them just do not want the purchase of the sale of this land to go forward. And I respect that. But if let's say if the city meets, they hear everything, there's a conversation, but ultimately the decision is still a recommendation to move forward with the sale. Would that still be considered meaningful in your opinion?
I'm not 100% sure how to answer that question. I would say if we allow Indigenous voices to be at the table, I think that would be meaningful. And in the end, as far as we did have some speakers today, and the majority was not asking to be the final decision maker, but just to be a voice at the table and to be heard. And again, I know I keep going back to the R's, but it's relevance, respect, reciprocity.
Okay. The other question I had was the wording of this at the end. So we have the groups and those are defined. So I appreciate that. You have the local Indigenous communities, and then you have a list. Is that the full list that you intend to have consult, or are there other Indigenous communities that you also wanted to have included on that list that you did not mention?
I believe that the Confederacy of Treaty 6 would also be a part of that conversation. They aren't listed in there, but they would be a part of that conversation as well. They would be, they would have local elders, and so they're listed in kind of a roundabout way.
Okay, is there anybody past that? Because what we should have is the full list. So is there anybody besides that additional organization?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay, so just as relates to your wording, like you may want to say, instead of saying local Indigenous communities, say they meet with these specific communities, because the vagueness of it leaves it open to unable to fulfill if somebody else came forward and said, I fit into local Indigenous communities and was not listed. The other question I have is, so the local, we have also, as well as local First Nation elders, survivors, and descendants. So I understand that, but my question now is, how far does the reach go? Is it people who currently live in St. Albert now? Or is it people that live in the capital region now? Or is it people that live within Alberta or Canada? Or what is the reach that we'll be going to meet the terms of this?
I would say if we met with even just our St. Albert Métis District 11 or the Confederacy of Treaty 6, they would know who, it wouldn't necessarily be somebody that lives in St. Albert today, but it could be somebody who that land affects them because maybe they went to Unionville Residential School and now they live in Edmonton, or so like the history of that land is pretty vast. And so I would say we would probably want to ask the Confederacy of Treaty 6 and the Métis District 11 who they would want to have at that table. And I know that they do have those kind of contacts and relationships already built.
Okay, so the wording doesn't reflect that. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, because what we have to do is when the wording of the motion comes forward, it has to be clear for administration to understand how they're going to meet the terms of this. And so when right now it just says local First Nations elders, survivors and descendants, which basically means that any descendant, regardless of where they live, anywhere in the world, also need to be consulted. It doesn't say a specific list as provided by specific organizations. And so I'm trying to figure out, so you're saying it would be within the capital region that we would find the people to meet this second term portion of this motion?
I can't actually answer that because I don't know who the like Confederacy of Treaty 6 and the Métis District 11 and Oda-Pimmiswak government, like they would be the kind of bigger organizations that would sort of take the lead, and they would know who should be at that table.
Okay. Then that's the challenge with the wording right now, is it doesn't state that. So right now, as far as administration has it, it's a list of just, we don't know who, and there's no limitations on geography whatsoever, and there's no reference as to how we will determine which people would be eligible for that. It would currently be anybody. And so the other question you only mentioned Indigenous, and I understand that. Why did you not choose to mention any other people of heritage, such as like French or anybody else who had involvement with that land in your motion?
Because of the distance of this portion of land to and the history of it in relation to the Youville Residential School, I believe that the groups that would come forward to speak on this land would be Indigenous people. So if there was other groups that felt, a connection to this land, I would love to hear that. But for me, I see this as a culturally sensitive piece of land for Indigenous people in relation to the distance of it from the proximity to the Youville Residential School.
Okay, and that makes sense. I guess the challenge with the motion right now is it's limited only to Indigenous, and it doesn't actually include other historically relevant people that also may have an opinion also about preserving the land or otherwise. So that's another challenge that I'm having with this. So yeah, that's just basically the challenge I'm having, Councillor Patrick, is that it's difficult for administration to define it, and you're not able to define it clearly either. And so just with the wording of this motion, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yep. Councillor Patrick.
So I would like to just follow up with that and ask a question of administration. So in regards to the way the motion is worded, do you feel confident that you understand the intent of that motion?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I do feel confident we understand the intent. I think, should the motion pass, we would engage with our Métis district as well as a Confederacy of Treaty 6 to seek some guidance on what that would look like. To Councillor Hughes' point, though, I think it is important to provide some bounds and guidelines right on this, and so that we ensure that we all go into it, I think, and that would be the initial discussion with the same expectations and have a framework to help guide it. But that framework, I think, would be heavily informed by our discussions with OMG and with Confederacy of Treaty 6. As to other elements right now, our interpretation of this is that it is absolutely focused on the Indigenous community, not focused on other groups, right? And as mentioned, that engagement, should the time come when there was redistricting, that would be part of a public hearing, the way I interpret this right now.
Okay. Just trying to think of it. I think admin clarified it. If there's no other questions for administration, we will move this to the debate. And I will allow Councillor Patrick to open.
Thank you, Mayor Olivieri. So I've thought a lot about this, the 13 mission, and I've just had so much reflection on it in the past, especially in the past few days. And I do think that this land can be utilized in a really good way that would benefit all of St. Albert. But I do also think that if we go ahead without genuine consultation, that it can be a missed opportunity for healing. And it also could be, and I want to say this right, but it also could be like I hate to use the word failure, but it's almost like a failure to uphold the core responsibilities that is outlined in our shared responsibility as treaty people. This City of St. Albert did in 2019 a report called the Pehonen Report. And in that report, it emphasizes the importance of meaningful consultation with Indigenous communities. And it uses the word meaningful. In the report's long-term recommendation, number 14, it recommends that the city consider permanent spaces, both indoor and outdoor, for delivery of Indigenous cultural programming and space for Indigenous organizations and their administrations. Pehonen is a Cree word, and it means gathering space. And in this policy, it acknowledges that the First Nation and Métis history of the area is often overlooked in the city's development and land use in the city's development and land use decisions. And so I'm not asking us to stop the sale of this land or to stop this land being developed in a good way. I'm asking that we just pause and take a moment to say, let's have a conversation, let's build a relationship, and let's see where we can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patrick. I will move it to council now for comments. And I respect we may need a minute to calibrate our thoughts. Okay, Councillor Clark.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who presented today. Your comments, your concerns have been taken to heart without a doubt. Your request for consultation to be heard, I think is important. My difficulty is, even in consultation, if we move forward with the sale of this land, that consultation rightly should be with a developer, because the city really has no ability to govern what a developer brings forward. But I think it's important for each and every one of you to request to be at the table with any future developer. Having said that, I want to begin by acknowledging that many groups, including the Métis, as well as others, have traveled through and lived on these lands over time and have a deep connection to this region and that particular property. I take seriously any concerns raised about consultation and engagement, particularly when a property can carry historical significance. I fully respect that history. At the same time, as council, our decisions regarding municipal property must be grounded in documented information, established policies, and our responsibilities as a governing body. Records show that information about the future of this property has been publicly available for several years. As early as May of 2021, it was known, or reasonably should have been known, that the city was moving towards divesting of this piece of property. In addition, the St. Albert Métis District 11 was on site in 2023, engaged in the work related to the demolition of the building. That level of involvement suggests awareness and engagement with the city regarding the property's changing status. In December of 2023, the Government of Alberta, at the request of the city administration, approved the city's application for redevelopment of these lands, indicating that there was no historical resources obstacles. From a governance standpoint, our role is to ensure that public assets are managed through transparent and well-considered processes. We must apply consistent criteria, follow our established policies, and make decisions that are grounded in clear rationale. Financial stewardship is equally important. These properties represent significant community value, and it's our responsibility as council to ensure that any decisions around them reflect prudent management and the broader interests of all of our residents. Council has a responsibility to ensure fairness, transparency, and consistency in how we manage city-owned lands. The previous council followed those established processes. At this stage, to pause or reverse the course not only introduces uncertainty to our land management processes, but it also raises questions about fairness to other community groups and stakeholders who rely on clear, predictable municipal decision-making. This is not a question of whether Indigenous voices matter. They do, and they always will. It's a question of whether the city failed in its duty to inform and engage, and based on the information before us, I do not believe that's the case. For these reasons, I won't be supporting this motion to pause the sale. I believe it's in the best interests of good governance, financial responsibility, and procedural fairness to proceed as directed by the previous council. Having said that, I would deeply and strongly encourage each and every one of you at the end of the day to engage with a developer that ultimately purchases this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. We'll move it to Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the motion, actually. I think it's important that we have this discussion, and I appreciate kind of even the personal battles that you faced even in bringing kind of this forward. So I want everybody to understand that I've come in with this with a completely open mind, and I think everybody up there knows me personally, and I have relationships and friendships with all of you. And I want to really begin by acknowledging the deep importance of those relationships and of the comments that we had this morning. And I also recognize the historical significance of this piece of property and all of the property that is not only on Mission, but and all the property that formed the foundation of who St. Albert was with the River Lot system. I think it's important that we recognize that what the roots of St. Albert are. And also I respect all of the comments that we've also received in writing from the new Métis government. And I wish I could say that name. And you know what, I'm promising you, Brad, I will learn that name. I will learn that name, Ovisiak. Thank you. I know. We'll get together and we'll by the end of the time frame, I will learn how to say that name properly and respectfully. But I as some of the earlier comments, I'm also struck, and I led this through our last term as we move forward with the municipal renaming of the Gardens community. And I followed process there. And that's kind of my foundation. It's where I come from, a systems focus, a clear understanding of policy that guides sound decision-making. And so our current policy framework already requires significant public engagement whenever we're looking at how do we deal with land use change and redistricting in particular. And it's important that we look at the impact, and to do that, we have to have a not only understanding of the history of the site, but we also have to understand what some of the proposals might look like or the concepts. And so I don't prejudge that anybody that might even purchase this land. And first of all, we're assuming that we have a buyer for this piece of property, and we might. I don't know. I'm aware of some proposals, but until there's actually a purchase offer, I don't know whether or not we'll have a buyer that'll actually move forward. And so I won't know how that whole evaluation will go. But right now, I do know that we do have a framework. And I think it's important to recognize that that's where a lot of these thoughtful, serious comments from all of our
Indigenous and Métis partners can actually be raised in the public, can really have a significant influence on what this site becomes and not just who owns it. So I want to be clear that this is not about us avoiding meaningful engagement. It's just about choosing when that engagement, appropriate time, and what is that mechanism for that engagement. And if we do pause now, I want to be certain that we're not creating some sort of a precedent where a change of ownership or something that doesn't normally trigger consultation just becomes the whole system becomes unpredictable and confusing for everybody involved. So what I do support going forward, though, and it's based on the comments that this discussion has brought forward, is I think it was Councillor Kelly, you were talking about developing a framework or moving forward on a framework going forward, because you're right, just because we've done something in the past doesn't mean it needs to go forward. But I do support administration and council enhancing and strengthening how that engagement occurs prior to a redevelopment phase. So, but until then, I think while I deeply value all of this, right now, I just don't know whether or not I can support the motion. But I will listen to my other councillors' comments, and I will listen to Amanda's closing, and I just want to once again say thank you for the discussion. I think it's meaningful, but right now I'm leaning towards following our current existing process.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. We'll go to Councillor Cortash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is tough. I don't have prepared comments, and so I'll do my best to try and express my opinion on this. This is, people have been asking me, how's council going? Do you enjoy it? Are you enjoying it? I don't know that enjoy is the right word. This is tough. This is really tough. This is the reason I ran for council, is to make these kind of big decisions, but literally losing sleep over this at night. This is one of the most significant issues. I think I mentioned it to you folks, to Mr. Fletcher when I started. This is really important to me, the Mission Hill redevelopment, or the Mission sale. I can see, I'd love to see downtown redevelopment. I'd love to see life injected in the community. I can see all the reasons to proceed with the sale and have some exciting development on this site. But it's also a really, really special place. I was going to say arguably the most important piece of real estate in the city, but I actually don't even think it's arguable. Like, I think it is the most important piece of real estate in the city. It's been home to First Nation people long before it was a Métis settlement. We have Métis river lots and Métis homes that were on the site. And I know that's throughout the community, but literally at the bottom of the hill, even from a colonist perspective, it's where Father Lacombe chose to locate the mission at the top of the hill. And it's been the heart of our community as long as St. Albert's existed. It's been a site for education in our community, and people have told stories about their experiences on the hill and the school. My entire life in St. Albert, I've been within 1 kilometer of that site, lived and attended Father Jen, and it didn't even occur to me until we were in this meeting that my students today, my high school students today, are on a walk around that site, crafting their own land acknowledgement. Like those are the sub plans that I left for my teacher today, not even realizing we were going to be having this conversation. Walking past the old residential school, spending time at the Healing Garden, and just walking that loop around Mission Hill, because it is such an iconic piece of property in our city. And so when I went out to the community, what are we going to do about Mission Hill? It's for sale. Council's approved the sale. What do we want to do? And it became very, very clear to me that there's a sense of ownership in our community, not just by the Indigenous people that have presented to us, but by the community as a whole. There is a real sense of ownership over this site for all kinds of different reasons. I think council needs to be really clear on what our vision is for this site. And so the way I'm approaching this motion, and I have to thank you, Councillor Patrick, for bringing this forward, because I've been going around in circles for weeks. What do we do about this site? And so to have something tangible to discuss, to debate here, I really appreciate you having the courage to bring this forward. It's tough. And I guess I come back to the word vision. What's our vision for the site? And I fear that proceeding with the sale without pausing the sale, we're relying on a developer to come forward with their vision and hoping that it matches our vision. And I'd prefer to pump the brakes a little bit. Let's consult with Indigenous folks and find out what their vision is for the site. I'd like to have a broader conversation and really crystallize our vision for the site and the community's vision for the site as well. I know that's beyond the scope of this motion, but any opportunity to pump the brakes on this sale to really crystallize our vision around this site. And like I said, I'd be the first to say, hey, we need to get downtown revitalization going. There's a huge opportunity to use this as a catalyst to do that. And that's a top priority, I know, for a lot of folks on this council. But I just think that we need to pump the brakes a little bit on this, have some more consultation. Let's have this Indigenous consultation, crystallize what our vision is for the site, and see where that takes us. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move it to Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. You know, personally, I wouldn't mind a park on this location. I think it's a lovely area, and I remember tobogganing on that hill all the time when I was in school there. And this is not going to fit the tobogganing of that hill. I understand that, but I do appreciate that land. The challenge right now, quite frankly, Councillor Patrick, is the wording of this motion, because you have listed groups in here that you want us to meet with that are not included in this motion. You have not provided the specifics. That administration, I understand they said this is our understanding of the motion, but the words in writing matter. And so what we have are vague words, unfortunately. It's meaningful and transparent can be difficult to define, as we've admitted. And I think it has different meanings for that. And so that's difficult. The fact that it says local Indigenous communities, I know you've listed one more. More may come up later that have not been listed, which then again provides administration, how do we make sure that we've actually met the terms of every single one of those to meet that term? And then also the fact that you have not provided direction as to how to define who the local elders, survivors, and descendants are, not even geography based, or how administration is to meet the terms of this motion. What we say verbally is not what we say verbally is what we say verbally, but in government, what we write and how it's interpreted so it can be clear is extremely important, because that is what the city manager has to fulfill. And so I would prefer the motion to say is that we discontinue with the sale and that we find another use of the land after consulting with specific groups. And that would provide the clarity, I think, that many people would appreciate. And that way administration could then have a specific term and not just say meaningful and transparent. Say we meet and consult with and define what that means so that they can meet the definition of this term. So it's very difficult to say yes to this motion as it's worded, because I don't see how administration would actually be able to completely define this without simply saying we should just continue with the sale. If they said we had a meaningful and transparent, but we recommend you move forward with the sale, then would it be defined as meaningful and transparent? And that varies from person to person, which now makes it impossible for them to be able to meet these terms. And so the wording of this motion needs to be different so that administration can actually do the job of enacting the motion as it's written. And that's the challenge I'm facing today. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bermansky, would you like to add anything? No. Okay. Before we go to closing, I will try to dissect my notes here in terms of articulating this. I recognize and appreciate the sensitivity regarding the land and its location, and I, as I mentioned, appreciate the comments, not just today, but leading up to where we are. I respect the opinions, and I mean, I've said being on council is an honor and a privilege, but then we get put in situations where you're having to debate topics with varying opinions on what we should do going forward. Being on council, we're required to take our seat with an unbiased and open mind, and represent the best interests of our community as a whole, and not try to lean towards stakeholder groups at any given time. I struggle with the word consultation or transparent and meaningful engagement, because as evident today, we've heard different definitions of that. We've had varying expectations of let's pause and join each other at the table, to blatantly we need to stop the sale and we need to build a park. I would agree with Councillor Kortash. We haven't, in that sense, crystallizing or defining the vision for this site would then, I think, become a challenge, or has become a challenge. There is a process for consultation, and that comes through the redistricting process. I think evidently we're going to be at a pause regardless, because we are now in a position that evaluating a joint effort on a redevelopment is contingent on another party being at the table, and they've decided to pause that until the new year. So I think evidently we have the opportunity to continue those conversations going forward, but it's all contingent on another group participating in this with us. So we maybe achieve some of what you're looking to achieve indirectly. The information to date that we've been presented doesn't suggest that there are any concerns about the site from an archaeological or from a redevelopment position. I understand there's differencing of opinion when it comes to that. However, we can simply just rely on the information that we've been given. And I fear that though this does set a precedent. I know Councillor Mackay said it's, there's a concern there that the sale of land does not typically involve engagement until after the process. And I believe then this opens the opportunity for comment, feedback, and engagement from stakeholders in the community at whole, because we can't do it for one and not do it for everybody else. I recognize what Councillor Hughes has said about the wording of it. I think it's broad-based and open-ended, and administration would have a challenge trying to fulfill without clear definition or boundaries around it. So I think there's a kind of a multitude of challenges there. And lastly, obviously there's new individuals on council. This has been available, or the opportunity for consultation and debate has been available for a number of years, and it's at the, I guess the height of it now because of a potential sale. I also feel, there was decisions made in the past by council, and I respect those. But I'm struggling with what this does for the community. I weigh what it looks like by pausing it, and both the benefit and I guess the pros and the cons of doing that. So maybe we take a minute before we, or if you'd like to close, but I don't know how to vote yet. I sincerely appreciate the motion. I think evidently we're going to end up in a spot where we're pausing anyways because of the other group that's involved. So, and not being able to act on or speak on their behalf. So I will leave it with that. And again, I sincerely appreciate everybody being here. The respectful debate, commentary, and position that everybody's taken, the ability for us to listen, and our appreciation for you listening to us. So with that, I'll move it to Councillor Patrick for closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As a new counselor, I am still trying to find kind of my footing and my confidence as a newly elected official. And I do not take this responsibility to the residents of St. Albert lightly. But I have seen firsthand that reconciliation is important in this city. Hundreds and hundreds of people show up every year at the bottom of that hill on September 30th in wearing orange shirts in honor of residential school children. Every July 1st, we have hundreds and hundreds of people gathering in Lions Park to walk the path along our river where we, historically, children that were attended residential schools in St. Albert would have been on that land at some time. And so I do think that it is important to the residents of St. Albert. And I think that going forward with the sale of this land at this time without this consultation, while going forward with the sale of this land would hold true to the economic strategic plan of our city, I do not believe it holds true to the city's commitment to meaningful engagement with Indigenous communities. And I really stress that meaningful engagement, that is on the City of St. Albert's Pehonan report. Like that is their wording. And so in this motion, I know we keep going back to that word, but this is something that the City of St. Albert has in their report. Reconciliation is an ongoing process. It is not a destination. And I really truly believe that by choosing the path of reconciliation and consultation, that the City of St. Albert would be demonstrating true leadership in establishing, maintaining respectful relationships, and also building that solid foundation for the framework, with our Indigenous framework that we have not completed yet. And I think this would be a really good starting point for that. And I apologize that I'm a little bit all over the place, but yeah, I guess that's all I had to say. Yeah. I feel it makes me feel a bit emotional because I know we've gotten really into the weeds today with in details on what engagement means, what meaningful means. And I know that as a Métis person, if I am sitting with an elder and I'm asking them for a definition, you don't always get a definition. Sometimes they tell you to go outside and put your feet on the grass. Sometimes they tell you to go and sit on the land, talk to the trees. And that might not make sense to a lot of people, but I've seen it and I've felt it. And I just think that I hope that we can just pause this and just take our time with it until we all feel confident that we could go forward in a really good way. Thank you.
I'm delaying it as long as I. Okay, well, absent of being allowed to take a break, we will move this to a vote, please. This motion has failed 4-3. I would ask now if we move to part 13, which is information request, notice of motions or announcements. I don't know if there is any at this time. Councilor Kortash.
Can I ask a question, just a question about procedure in terms of notice of motion? When's our next council meeting is January 13th, is that correct? So in order to have a motion on that meeting, do I have to give notice of motion today or can I provide it in writing tomorrow? How does that work?
So it's 20 days. So tomorrow I think would be fine. I haven't done the calculations, but I think that's fine.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be at council meeting. I can provide that in writing as long as it's a 20-day notice.
We start the clock as soon as we receive it.
correct, on the
Okay.
council member site. yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have none for today.
Councillor Hughes?
I'm looking at two screens trying to get the right motion. I have a couple of motions I wanted to bring forward. So one is that planning, engineering, business improvement specialist recommendations and implementations to date provided to the Internal Audit Committee at the first 2026 Internal Audit Committee meeting, and implementations are updated to the committee on an annual basis moving forward. And the second one, I had it here a minute ago, please forgive me. All of a sudden, oh, here we go. That administration includes a 2027 includes in the 2027 budget a project charter for a fire training facility, including build and operating costs and a realistic revenue potential for cost recovery through rentals and other municipalities in Alberta, and the cost savings from not needing our firefighters to train at outside facilities. Those are the two notice motions. I'll put them through the system right away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe it's at this point we go to our in-camera portion. Maybe we'll take a quick
So I can have lunch brought down. It's just sort of waiting for the queue. So this might be a good time to take a lunch break and then
Go to in-camera.
reconvene and do in camera afterwards. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. It's not like there's no hard agenda.